it seems, day to day and week to week injuries. We're losing guys for the season left and right all across the league. And a lot of times it's at our position, wide receivers, defensive back. You are watching and listening to the Indy Drills Podcast. It's a DB podcast talking about secondary and all things pass coverage here. Very happy to be here with you as the football season has gotten underway. We're not at any games yet, but we're all in prep mode. Whether you're in high school, college, or the NFL, you are currently practicing getting ready for your season. And that brings a ton of amount of excitement, but it also brings some issues up that we need to talk about so that things run smoothly for you this season as a defensive back. Happy to be here with you. As I told you guys, as always, the Indy Drills Podcast is sponsored by 101 DB Tips, the absolute ultimate reference guide for defensive backs out there. If there's something about DB play you need to know, it's right here in this book. How to play corner, how to play safety, how to play nickelback, how to play man, zone, watch film what to do in the off season, things about your footwork. It is all packed into this book right here. If you don't have a copy of this and you play defensive back, what even are you doing? Go ahead and take care of that right now. I have a link to it down in the description below. Also, if you've been coming here for a while, you enjoy this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Not only do we have the Indy Drills Podcast, but a bunch of videos on defensive back topics that are going to make you a better player, coach, trainer, whatever part of this you are. For you parents out there that you have a young defensive back that you want to excel, you're going to definitely want to be on this channel. And so go ahead and hit that bell so you're notified the next time I put out a great Indy Drills Podcast or DB video like this one. Coming up on the show today, just talk a little bit about preseason. We are going to get into a Q&A. I think that's going to be a big part of what I do today, just Q&A. I get some questions out here, and I'd like to be able to answer them not only for the guys that asked the questions, but for the folks out there that may have thought of it but didn't decide to ask. So Q&A today. And then the big main topic is press. No, not press. We're all thinking about press all the time, but off-man coverage, how to win in off-man coverage. That is our big topic today. So let's just jump into it. Hey, everyone, if you're from the defensive back world, which is what we're talking about here on the Indy Drills Podcast, yeah, the preseason game's coming out here, and everyone wants to know what's Travis Hunter doing. What's Travis Hunter going to do? Is he going to be a defensive back? Is he going to be a wide receiver? Is he going to play both? Is he going to be like he was at Colorado, where he was pretty much every snap in the game, like, it was little league or high school or something like that? Is he going to be able to take that what he did in Colorado and move it on to the next level? There are a lot of folks out there who don't believe that he can. So we had a chance to see possibly what that might look like in this preseason game this weekend as they took on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Nothing really spectacular there. Now, of course, it's preseason football. And, just as an aside, I think people overreact to a lot of things when it comes to this part of the year. And I get it. You've been itching and you've been chomping at the bit for football. It's been months of all kind of offseason topics that you don't really want to talk about. There's been a lot of filler space. And, listen, people greet the practices with excitement, and they tend to overreact. I mean, Twitter has really taken that to the new stratosphere. We're reacting to practice film. We're reacting to one-on-ones in practice film. We're reacting to, obviously, when two teams come together and they have joint practices, we overreact to all of that. And, of course, we do too much thinking and we draw too many conclusions about preseason NFL games. I get it, fans. Calm down, though, okay? Yeah, there's some things you can tell from preseason games, and then there's a whole lot of other things that you just really aren't going to be able to determine from preseason games. And general fans overreact to all of it. With that said, Travis Hunter, if you looked at the game, got a little bit more action on offense than he did on defense, looked more comfortable, if I could even say that, offensively than he did on defense. But, when you're playing preseason, you're not playing the whole game. Limited action there for him. I think he had 2 catches for 9 yards on 2 targets. So the good news is he caught both balls thrown to him. They were pretty easy, quick game passes, the kind of stuff you just want to get a completion for the quarterback and get the ball into the hands of a playmaker, which, they accomplished that. Not much after that, though. And therein might be some of the issues for Travis Hunter, which I'll get into in just a moment. But on a recent interview with his good buddy now, Asante Samuel Sr., Deion Sanders did have some thoughts on Travis Hunter playing both sides of the ball. Obviously, he's for it. He's a guy who did it when he was in the league. He coached him and really pretty much took the guy under his wing through his college years. So he's invested in Travis Hunter being able to do the whole offense versus defense thing full time. But Deion Sanders did have this comment to make about Travis Hunter playing both sides that people have not maybe thought about. Here's Deion Sanders.
This is something that people are forgetting about the Travis Hunter situation in the NFL. In college football, man, we ran tempo. The ball snap, the ball snap, the ball snap. Pros, you got to huddle, dog. You know how much more time that he's going to get to rest between plays when he's tempo, offensive, defense, tempo. So he's going to get a lot more rest than he's ever gotten before.
So basically, he was running the 400-meter dash in track when he was practicing with you, and now he's in Jacksonville, and all he got to run is a 100-meter dash, and he is totally prepared for that easily because it's a tempo over you, and you ain't getting no rest.
You ain't getting no rest. And we even practice like that. Like we practice the one's offense versus two's defense, then the one's defense versus two's offense, so he could truly simulate how it was going to be in the game rest-wise.
So I mean, I understand that. I get where Deion is coming from, and that is a good point. College football games do move faster, believe it or not, in terms of the amount of plays that they get off in a certain amount of time. So Deion is right in that factor. The biggest factor he's thinking of there is just the fatigue factor. He won't be as tired. There's a little more downtime, a little more pause. Especially even TV timeouts and stuff like that. The pro game can tend to move slower. And so from that standpoint, I believe Deion is right. Where I think he falls short and those in the camp of Travis Hunter is just going to go and do what he did in college football at the NFL level is that this game is so more violent now. And where Colorado might have a game dipped in there against Colorado State or North Dakota State somewhere in there, there aren't any Colorado States or North Dakota States in there. You just don't have those games anymore. Every week at DB, you're lining up in front of a pro. You're lining up in front of a guy that if you aren't paying attention, if you're not on point, if you're not 100%, the guy will beat you for 150 yards in the game. If you're over on the offensive side of it, there's a cornerback out there that might just make your day very difficult getting off of the line of scrimmage. There's safeties out there that are going to hit you, and it won't be a Colorado State safety hitting you. It won't be a North Dakota State, not to take anything away because those are two very solid programs, but it's not a team filled and packed with pros. These are professionals. These are men. This game, the plays might not come off as fast, but they're moving faster out there on the field. It's a lot more violent game, despite all of the regulations and rules that they have tried to put in over the most recent years to preserve for player safety. You just listen to and you pay attention to what's just going on in training camp with guys getting injured, guys getting hurt, and the injuries get more and more catastrophic. These aren't, it seems, day to day and week to week injuries. We're losing guys for the season left and right all across the league, and a lot of times it's at our position, wide receivers, defensive back. I mean, Rondell Moore has just been lost for the season again for Minnesota. So that's difficult. The other part, too, is training for this stuff in the offseason. Again, you're lining up in front of professionals every week. And there's a lot goes into prep for you to be the best that you can be each season. You guys have seen all the videos of the wide receivers working in the offseason. Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson, Stephon Diggs. You see these guys working so hard in the offseason just to be the best and excellent at their one position. You see what the defensive backs are doing on their side of the ball. You see what all these guys are doing. Hell, I'm in that business. I have all these professionals that train with me in the offseason, and it's a full-time job. It's a lot of work. I get that Travis Hunter is special. I get that. He's a very special athlete. Would never want to take that away from him. But between the prep and the amount of physical toll and then the mentality, how sharp you need to be each and every week to line up and play a professional football game. And oh, by the way, there's 17 games now, and they're talking about moving to an 18th game. Very, very difficult. On top of that, stuff up there in the league tends to be more complex, especially on the offensive side of the ball. You have all of these offensive coaches now that are they'll bog down the offenses with terminology and tags and all this kind of stuff. I'm sure Travis is a very smart guy. He's shown that to us, but that requires a certain amount of time. We're talking about professional football. It's difficult up there, all right? I know there's some guys out there that make things look easy, but it's difficult. And to say that you're going to excel on both sides of the ball, I guess it's just one of those things for me. I'm going to need to see. I am highly skeptical, and I love everything that Deion in Colorado was able to do in the past few years. All of the critics that came out, I wasn't really with that. But to say that Travis Hunter is going to be up there and be excellent on both ends of it, that's one of those things that I'm going to have to see. I would more like to see him focus on one side of the ball. Now, I will say this. I don't think it matters whether he goes offense full-time or defense full-time. If that's what he wanted to do, he could be one of the top players, a top 5 or 10 player in whichever one of those positions he decides to go to. But I think he would be severely diminished on both sides of the ball if he decided to pursue those full-time. Now, if he was a defensive back full-time and did some offense, sure. If he was a full-time offensive player and then he went and did some DB, sure. We've seen guys do that. The Patriots had a couple guys come off and do that in their run. And Troy Brown was a receiver, went over, played DB. We see Julian Edelman play some defensive back. So if it was that type of a deal, then sure. All right. He could be as good or better than anyone who's ever done it, including Coach Prime, who did it in his day with the Dallas Cowboys. But to say he's going to be a full-time every snap player on both sides, man, that's just going to have to be something that I would need to see. Speaking of Sanders, Shiloh Sanders, Deion's older of the two, not his oldest. There's Deion Sanders Jr., who does a great job, by the way, following the guys around and capturing footage, whether it's at Colorado, following Pops around and what he's doing, or capturing footage of his two younger brothers. I think he does an outstanding job with that there. But we're not talking about Deion Sanders Jr. We're talking about Shiloh Sanders. Preseason game this weekend, got in there and got some action. No real big plays. And like I said, it's the preseason, so, kind of difficult. You're not playing an entire game and you're playing defensive back. So
parents, dads out there, if you're trying to get your kid to the next level, you're trying to get him to the level of elite skills, you've got to use these resources that I have available to you. One is my book, 101 DB Tips. It's the greatest book out there for DBs. Everything on covering man, playing zone, playing corner, playing safety, how to study film. It's an excellent resource for your young tyke that's trying to become a big-time DB. Also, the All Eyes DB Camp members area is a superpower. Over 200 videos in there on all types of things like how to play coverages, technique, strategy breakdowns, and more. 2 great resources for your young guy if you're trying to get him to the next level. Take advantage of them. Link down in the description below.
The action comes or it doesn't come. Run around, he did show his aggressiveness. No big plays made, like I said, not an interception or even a chance at a big hit. But what I did notice was him making all-out efforts to get to the ball when he did arrive on the scene, trying to be aggressive. Couple of, situations that you saw at Colorado not wanting to wrap up. He is Lord of the big hit. That's his thing, but that's another thing now, moving to the next level. Some of those hits in college where you could drop a shoulder into a guy and fold him up and knock him backwards, you're not going to really be able to do that as much at this level because, man, these are mature men. These are strong men. These are guys that have had so many years in the weight room. You are going to have to wrap things up. But I am looking forward to what Shiloh Sanders is going to bring at this level. Obviously, as a free agent, the assumption is that you're fighting for a roster spot. I feel pretty good that he'll make that team and that if given the opportunity can make an impact on defense. But I'm looking forward to more preseason games, just getting a chance to see him in live action because I think Shiloh Sanders brings something to the secondary. Obviously, there are a lot of detractors, as I think for everything, Colorado, because they were so loud and in your face. And, they had things to say. They very much took on the identity of the head coach, who was all of those things and more as a player. He brings it as a coach. And so people have a hard time with the confidence that just Prime and the team brought. So they're all the detractors, but I would love to see more action with Shiloh Sanders and what he's going to bring this year. That'll be fun to see. By the way, not a DB topic, but I did have a chance to watch Shadur Sanders play quarterback for the Browns in their game this weekend, and I thought he looked pretty solid to me. Obviously not a perfect performance, and Shadur himself said he wasn't happy with it, but I think for a guy who didn't get a bunch of first team reps in camp to go out there and play in his first pro game at a very difficult position as quarterback, I think he looked very solid, very quick release, stuff that I had noticed at Colorado he brought to the game. Cool demeanor, calm demeanor, seemed to be in control, didn't seem to be flustered, escaped the pocket a few times and ran, escaped the pocket a few times and made some throws downfield, off target a little bit on some throws, a little high on those slants. I think safeties in the league will love it if he continues to do that. But there are anything that you saw that was off from Shadur in his performance are definitely things that are fixable. You didn't see any kind of physical limitations like you may have seen in some top quarterback picks from years past. We've seen, and Shadur was definitely not a top pick, but you've seen some number one picks, first round pick quarterbacks get into some games in the preseason and say, hey, I don't know, man. From a physical standpoint, it looks like there's some problems there that aren't going to be fixed. That you're not seeing any of that with Shadur. There were a couple times where he tried to scramble away, and again, you quickly realize that this is the NFL now, and some of those escape routes you're trying to take just aren't going to be there. That's fixable, something you watch on film. I'm sure you realize pretty quickly, spinning around and trying to run way back to get back to the line of scrimmage, not going to happen in this league. Everyone, all four of those men down on that line of scrimmage can get after it. These guys run 4.7s, 4.6s, and 4.8s now. Very difficult to get away from those guys. But I thought overall a very solid performance from Shadur Sanders. What did you guys think? Did you have a chance to watch Travis Hunter or Shiloh Sanders or Shadur Sanders in their games this weekend? What are your thoughts? Share them with me down in the comments section down below. Speaking of comments and questions, that is what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to have a Q&A session right now as I've, the YouTube channel is really starting to blossom and grow. And with that comes a lot of guys coming on board that ask questions, have got comments, and I really do appreciate it. I love that. Love to see the comments. So feel free to make some comments on this video and ask your questions because I love to do the Q&As, love to hear some of the problems that you guys are experiencing out there, and we can get to work on trying to solve them. So this next section right here is going to be about questions and answers for your DB problems. So starting off with this one, C. Bart got this one from YouTube. Ask, do you have any drills to help my DBs become better open field tacklers? Well, the answer to that is yes, not a ton of them, but I do like to keep those things from premium members in my All Eyes DB Camp members area. I attack those things, both tackling and getting off of blocks inside of that members area. If you're looking to join, and you absolutely should, it's a game changer for you as coaches and players. Hit the link down below. A little quick plug for the All Eyes DB Camp members area. I have a specific drill in there called Slide Confirm Commit. And while that drill is for coverage, it also helps a tremendous amount in open field tackling. So I'll say this to you, C. Barton, trying to answer your question is, if you're familiar with catch technique, if you have guys that cover in the slot and you use a certain technique there, I'm assuming it's not just backpedaling. I'm assuming it's not just press. So you probably have your guys either playing catch technique or scooch in that slot. If you don't, I do have some videos on here on catch technique. I don't know that I break it down in this YouTube section, but I do show guys playing catch technique. For all of you coaches out there, if you're sharing this same problem that C-Bart has, the same principles that you use in teaching your guys catch technique is same principles you're going to use for your guys on open field tackling. Because what are we asking them to do when we're playing catch technique? You're asking them to cover a very athletic slot guy trying to run a route down the field. You're asking him to hold his ground on a line of the line that he's lined up on and get hands on him and then cover him. So all of the principles you're using there, keeping your eyes low, staying square, matching his stem with your slide so that you can get hands on, are all of the same principles you're going to use in the open field, because it's literally the same thing. A slot trying to run his route while you're holding the line is you facing him in open space and trying to make contact with him. That's what you're doing in the open field and tackling. So all of those principles come into play. Staying square, keeping your eyes low, taking a leverage if you've got help somewhere, if you know help's coming from the inside, or he's close to the sidelines, you're forcing him to the sidelines. You're using all of those same principles. And then the only thing that's going to be different now is at the point of contact. In catch technique, you're just trying to get hands on, keep the guy close, and then match his hips so that you can cover him down the field. In open field tackling, we're not trying to run down the field, so we eliminate that part of it. But instead, we are going to implement our tackling techniques, which as a coach, you should have a set of those already in place. Near leg, near shoulder, head up, wrap, take the guy down. So up until that point, you're using everything that you do in playing catch technique, a technique you use covering in a slot. And then when the guy gets there, you use all of your tackling mechanics. And once again, like I said, lead with the near leg, near shoulder, head up, wrap, and then take the guy down to the ground. If you approach that open field tackling, C-Bart, the same way that you would approach catch technique, you can make your guys some pretty good open field tacklers. So if you have some catch technique drills that you use, you're going to want to use those same drills for your open field tackling, and then just adjust the contact part to suit the needs of tackling. I don't know if you guys take guys down to the ground in your practices. Some guys do, some guys don't. There are obviously some dangers with that, but you're going to have to figure that part out. Whatever your philosophy is as a team on defense, you guys will do that. But I'm telling you, you will do a whole lot good for your open field tackling if you just turn your catch technique drills into open field tackling drills. Kevin in Illinois asks, how do I know when to open in my back pedal? That's a question I get frequently, and it's a difficult one for me to ask for this reason, because that really is just an instincts thing. After you've covered enough times, you get an idea of the kind of tempo that a receiver is bringing. And it does also have to do with your skill level in terms of your pedal, your transition, and how you run out of your back pedal. So do definitely work on those things. You want to make sure you have a smooth pedal. Let's just attack that part first. You do also want to work constantly. This should be a part of your daily routine, transitioning out of your back pedal into the run. Because the better that you get at those things right there, the better you get at your pedal, and the better you get at your transition out of that pedal into a run, determines now when you need to open as that guy runs to you. The better you get at those things, the later you can wait to open. I would just say, as a rule, start with 3 yards away. All right, start with 3 yards away. One of the big things that I do in my training sessions is teach guys a transition from the pedal into the crossover run using a shuffle. So first they learn how to pedal, then they learn how to shuffle when they get out of that pedal, and then they learn how to go from that shuffle into the crossover run. So if you're a young DB, if you're a coach coaching a group of young DBs, teach them that. Teach them the pedal, then the shuffle, then the crossover run. Again, that's a drill that I have in the All Eyes DB Camp members area. I show guys how to do that. I also work all three of those phases in the W drill series, and that's a basic drill that you could find here on my channel, where it's a W drill series. It's in the Masters of the Basics, whether it's part 1 or part 2, don't quite remember, but we work on breaks out of the pedal, we work on breaks out of the shuffle, we work on breaks out of the crossover run. So it would be in your best interest to learn how to do that. But as a rule, to answer the question, start with 3 yards, see how that helps you, affects you. Is that too early? Do you find yourself giving too much space and allowing a guy to break out of his routes and you're too far away? Then you cut it down to 2 yards. When you get really, really good, you'll be around that range, 2 yards, yard and a half. You'll be okay there. But as a beginning rule, start at 3 yards. If you feel like they're eating up your cushion from 3 yards and you're open, you got to get better at your pedal and your transitions. But you can start just for survival because you're in practices and you're not trying to give up big plays. You can move it now to about 4 yards. Once you start moving beyond 4 yards, you're just giving up too much space, and you're not going to be backpedaling very long, and you're taking away your ability to cover a bunch of routes. So if you need more than 4 yards, you've got a lot of work to do on your back pedals and your transitions. But do continue to work those because, like I said, the better you are at those, the later you can wait. All right. Angelo in California asks, how do I keep my eyes from moving up to the receiver's face in press? Another common problem that you will have in press. And for young guys, not just young guys, though, because, you'll get this at all levels. Press is hard. And a big reason why press is hard is because of the eyes, the amount of focus that it takes with the eyes. I try to draw a lot of the same comparisons in with press as hitting a baseball. And one of the biggest reasons that it's difficult to hit a baseball is just the amount of focus that you need to have with your eyes on that ball and then, bring your hands to the ball. Same problem in press. It's being able to keep your focus on the hips and then move with that receiver, what you see those hips doing, and then attack with your hands most of the time. Hopefully you're able to do that. So if you're running into that problem, and I see it a lot with guys, they'll start off looking right at the hips, but the moment that receiver moves, eyes go to the face and the shoulders. And once you start doing that, you're looking at all of the wrong things because the receivers use the eyes, they use the face and the shoulders to fool you. And those things are moving a whole lot faster than the hips. So you're right. It's in your best interest to keep those eyes down. If you've tried over and over and over, and you seem to have a problem keeping your eyes there once the ball is snapped and the receiver moves, one little hack trick that I have seen work for guys that, I've had some success doing this with guys in training is having them start with their eyes at the wide receiver's feet. And then a lot of times what will happen is the moment that receiver moves, whatever it is that goes on in your mind that makes your eyes pop up will now take your eyes up from his feet to his hips. And, guys seem to have a whole lot of success leaving the eyes at the hips after they've brought them up off of the feet. So whatever the problem is, and I'm not a doctor, I'm not a brain guy, whatever it is that makes you rise your eyes up from the hips to the face when you're trying to look at the hips is the same thing that'll rise the eyes up from the feet to the hips. And guys seem to have a pretty good go at leaving the eyes at the hips. So try that. If you've tried everything else and you can't seem to be able to do that, try starting off with your eyes on the wide receiver's feet and moving them up to the waist and see if that works for you. It has worked a ton for guys that have come to me that have that problem. All right. Carter in Illinois says, how can I stop getting beat on double moves? Carter, double moves are tough. All right. It's the way that when you see guys wide open at all levels, even in the league, it's usually because of double moves. Why do double moves work? We'll go back to the eyes. It's that guys look at the wrong thing at the wrong time. You go looking at the quarterback the moment that receiver makes his first move. So let's take something like an out and up. Okay. You're covering the wide receiver. It's man to man. You're watching that wide receiver. You're backpedaling. Guy breaks on the out. And instead of driving the man with your eyes on him, you go look at the quarterback right now to see if the quarterback is throwing to your guy. You've got to get that part out of your head. Let's just assume that every time a receiver breaks that you're covering, the quarterback is throwing the ball to him. So no need to peek and see, hey, is he throwing to my guy? Let's just always assume that he is. First of all, if you're looking at the quarterback while that receiver is running the out, if he now decides to go up the field, you will never see that, or you'll see it way too late. So as you're driving in the direction of that receiver, but looking at the quarterback too early and the guy decides to go up the field, you're not going to see it. He's going to take off up the field while you're driving forward. And by the time you look back, he's gone. And then it's a foot race that you're not going to be able to win unless the ball is grossly underthrown. Okay. And we don't want to live in that space. So the best way for you to not get beat in double moves is to do the right thing on the single moves. Everything you do in practice that has to do with making a break should be an opportunity for you to practice driving your eyes to the receiver. So when you're doing something as simple as a W drill that most coaches do in the beginning part of practice, you plant, you pretend that you're looking at the quarterback, you plant, you drive, and you drive your eyes to the receiver. So if that happens to be a cone that the quarterback the coach put on the ground, you drive your eyes to that cone. You run all the way to that cone with your eyes on that cone. Don't have your eyes all over the place. Get used to looking at the quarterback, then look at the receiver. Look at the quarterback, look at the receiver. When I do W drill, I am annoyingly on that with the guys that I train. Any of them will tell you all he does is say quarterback, then receiver, quarterback, then receiver. You must train this. Even if you go out and you do some training on your own after practice to a park by yourself on your alone time, do not practice having bad eyes. Okay, it's hard to correct the eyes because you're not seeing them, you're not feeling them. So you have to be aware of them foremost in everything that you do in training. That is the foremost thing that you're thinking about in your training is your eyes. Then your feet, and then if you're using your hands in a drill, you think about that last. But the first thing you're going to think about are your eyes. So get really good at what you're doing against single moves. Even if you're pretending that you're in man when making a break. When you make your break, so let's say you're pretending you're looking ahead, that there's a receiver in front of you. When you make your breaks, because you're practicing breaks, don't go looking in at the quarterback, even if there isn't a quarterback. Get used to driving your body and your eyes towards the wide receiver. And what that's going to do for you is in the games or in practices, when a receiver runs an out and you've been practicing over and over to drive towards him, at least 3 steps, you start taking your steps towards the wide receiver, you're going to notice him breaking on an up route. Final thing I will tell you is whenever a double move occurs, get vertical right away. Whether that's a hitch and a go, it's a sluggo, which is a slant and then a go, or it's an out and up. The moment you realize that it's a double move, plant your foot, get vertical up the field, because we're trying to take away the big play. What I see a lot of guys do is go try and run to that player's hip after they execute the double move. That's not the move for you. The double move is not the route is right there where they made the break. The ball's not coming right there. The ball's coming down the field and way down the field, okay? A double move is not for a 10-yard gain. A double move is for a 40, 50, 60-yard gain. So you might as well get back there right now. So you're driving the receiver. You see him make that double move, plant your foot, and get vertical up the field because we're trying to stop the big play. Get vertical first, then you start worrying about width and trying to get over to the receiver. First thing you've got to protect, though, is the big play, the goal line. Plant your foot, get deep, and then worry about getting over to the receiver after you've started to get yourself downfield, all right? So 2 big things there. Practice driving the man with your eyes. Second, get vertical on any double move. All right. Next question is, I'm always scared to take my eyes off of the receiver to look for the ball. Are there any drills to fix that? Lane in Pennsylvania. Are there any drills to fix that? Yes. They're called receiver drills. Go run routes, go catch footballs. I don't know if I spoke about this in my last Indy Drills podcast, but as DBs, we just don't catch the football enough in our practices and our training. Receivers are catching 50, 100, 100-plus balls in practice, and we might catch 10 balls, maybe. A fraction of that number we catch. And so you're not comfortable enough catching the football. That's why you don't look. All right. You don't have much practice in this very thing that you would like to accomplish, which is catching the football. So you don't look. All right. You're nervous about it. So you don't want to have to deal with it. So it's just amount of your comfortability, and you're going to fix that by catching balls. So if you have that as an issue, stay after practice, catch deep balls after practice, get a backup quarterback out there or a friend of yours that can throw the football. One of those DBs maybe know how to throw the football. Maybe you should learn how to throw the football as well, but go catch deep footballs. Have him throw the ball to you 30, 40 yards downfield while you're running, and he says ball after he throws the ball. Turn, get your head up, and track the football and catch it. You got to do that over and over and over. Get yourself to 100, 200, 300 balls caught like that. Now, when you develop a certain amount of confidence through your drill work on that, you will now feel more comfortable as you're running down the field with the receiver to look for the ball. You don't look for the ball now because you're afraid you might misjudge it. If you misjudge it, it's going to go into the hands of the receiver, and the receiver will catch the ball and run for a long touchdown. So you prefer now to just sit there and watch his hands. Hopefully you'll catch the ball soon. You'll catch the ball right when it gets into his hands, and you can dig your hand in there and pull the ball out. And that's a recipe for disaster, because that's probably going to draw a bunch of flags as you start moving into game competition. Referees are really keyed up on protecting the offensive game and points this year and giving the receivers every opportunity to catch the ball. So you may get away with that here or there. A, you have to have the absolute proper timing. B, you have to be on the very best part of the receiver's body to get to every ball that might hit his hands. And, C, I don't know that that's really the greatest way for you to go. If you're on near that receiver's hip, especially in high school football where you don't get a bunch of perfect balls thrown, you're going to want to be able to get your head around and catch the underthrown football. Because the underthrown football, if you don't look for it, the receiver runs into you trying to catch it, and that's a flag, as opposed to you getting your head around, seeing the ball underthrown, and it's an easy interception for you. I don't need to tell you which one of those outcomes are the more advantageous one for you and the defense and your team that you're playing for. So my only answer, the drill for you is just catch footballs. Go run some go routes by yourself and have the ball thrown to you, catch it, go run to the post, catch it. Once you get better and better at that, you'll feel more comfortable, and now you'll feel it easier to turn your head around and make that play. Turn, look for the ball, and make that catch. All right, that's going to wrap it up for me on my Q&A session. I enjoy doing that. So here's how you guys can be a part of that in the future. Ask your questions. One of the best ways to do that is you're listening to this podcast right now. Drop your comment in the comment section down below. Ask your question. I might choose to use it in the next Indy Drills podcast. Looking forward to doing that. Like I said, I love these Q&As. These are questions that need to be asked and answered for a lot of people, not just the people that asked them, for a lot of people. So I'm happy to do that. Looking forward to doing more and more of these in the future. If I can get a ton of these questions, I can make this a part of every Indy Drills podcast. I do answer one question every Indy Drills podcast, but I'd love to have a longer Q&A session in the future, even if it's a very simple. No question is a dumb question when you're playing defensive back, okay? Guys are at different stages of this game. You might be a youth league player. You might be a high school DB playing DB for the first time. You might be a college guy that just got switched from running back or wide receiver to defensive back. So you're going to have some very basic questions. Ask them. So you can drop them in the comment section down below. Outside of that, if you're listening to the podcast on a streaming device, you can send your question to me at cwilson@alleyesdbcamp.com. Again, cwilson@alleyesdbcamp.com. All right. Now on to my main topic, which is winning in off-man coverage. Press man gets all of the attention. I understand it. That is, what has been glorified in this game. Some of the best players to play this game. And the two guys that people really talk about at cornerback were press man guys. Darrelle Revis, Deion Sanders. I get it. It shows off all of your athleticism. It's great to get your hands on a guy at the line of scrimmage and eliminate him, or glue to a guy right at the line of scrimmage. I understand all that part of it. Truth of the matter is, you got to be able to play some off man as well. All right. As a coach, you'd like to be able to call some off man coverage to just disguise some things, or at least have another tool in the bag if teams are doing things to prevent you from being able to play press, whether that's stacks, bunches, close splits, and all that kind of stuff, sending guys in motion. One way or another, you're going to run into an offense that's going to force the DBs to have to play off, and you're going to need to know as a defensive back how to play in those situations. You got to be able to come off of the ball and be able to play there. So we're going to talk about off-man coverage and how we can excel in that area. The first thing you're going to need to do is have a proper alignment. So most coaches will have you off 7 yards, and depending on the defense, you'll be 1 yard shaded inside or 1 yard shaded outside. All right. I've seen that played both ways. Nothing wrong with that so far as everything else fits, the particular technique that you're using. Of course, sometimes a wide receiver will take a huge split. He'll be way outside, close to the sidelines. You're not going to align outside of that guy. You're going to have to align inside. Or a wide receiver might have a very tight split. He might be in there tight to the formation, or he might be way inside of the numbers. You're going to need to align to the outside. What you can't do, though, is align straight head up in front of that wide receiver. You don't want to give that wide receiver a two-way go. You don't want to be guessing as he runs straight at you if he's going to break inside or outside. You want to be able to eliminate a certain amount of routes on that route tree. That's going to help you because you can't sit here and anticipate 9-10 routes in your head as you're covering that wide receiver. Second of all, if he starts closing that cushion and he's right in front of you, how do you know which way to open? If he's right in front of you and you open to the outside thinking it's a go route and he breaks inside, let's say on a dig route, you're screwed. You're going to have to make a speed turn or a hip flip, and that's going to require a lot of work, and that receiver is going to get a good amount of separation from you. When you open, you want to be cutting off a certain part of the field. So if you're inside of that guy, he breaks your cushion and you open to the outside and he's outside of you, well, now you've kind of got him trapped in between you. And the sidelines, and it makes life a little bit easier. If you're playing outside and you open as he breaks a cushion to the inside and he's inside of you and his route happens to be an outside route, well, you're in good position. You're not in good position if you're right in front of that guy and you open up and he's able to attack your blind spot and your back. All right. So never lining up right in front of him. You're going to take a leverage, understand what that is, and take it. All right. Leverage is key when you're playing in off-man coverage. The next thing is determining, are we reading three-step or are we just reading the wide receivers? What does your team ask you to do? Coaches, what are you asking your players to do? If you're asking them to read the three-step, and what that means for you novices out there is you're looking at the quarterback and he's under center and you are reading his drop as he breaks away from the center after the snap. If he pulls up at 3 steps, you know that's a quick route. So we're talking slant, hitch, or a quick out. And based on your study of, the alignment, the situation, his splits, you kind of have an idea of what's coming. Whether it is that hitch or a slant or something from that quick game family, you will be able to make your break off of that, reading the quarterback, okay? Because oftentimes the quarterback will tell you first what that route is in the quick game, before the receiver does. So you have a chance to have some anticipation and get a jump on a route. All right. If he clears that 3-step, well, now you're taking your eyes back to the wide receiver and you're playing just regular off man from that standpoint. There may be some off defenses where you're not reading that 3-step at all. Most of them are like that. You're not reading the 3-step because it can be a little bit of a tricky thing. And it does require a good amount of practice for you to be good at. You may or may not feel comfortable as a coach teaching that, or you may not have the time to really teach that to your players to where they are proficient enough at it. So you just have them reading the receiver. So if that's the case, you need to have your eyes in the right spot, which is on that receiver's hip. Please don't look at the receiver's face. Please don't be looking at the receiver's shoulders, because that's where all the lies are, okay? Receivers will use their head and their shoulders to give you false cues and jump and take you off of the route that's really being run. If you want the truth, It lies in the hips of that wide receiver. Okay. He's not going anywhere without those. And the hips move a whole lot slower than the head and the shoulders. So all of this stuff that you need, the place where you need your eyes and press is the same place where you need your eyes when you're playing off man coverage. So you have your alignment, you have your eyes in the right place, whether that's reading the 3-step or you're reading that wide receiver's hips. That's where you need to have your eyes. Okay. Figure out which one of those things you're supposed to be doing and do that. Third thing is, what does the split tell us? You should be doing a fair amount of film study. The same way that you have to align in a proper spot, like I said, 7-1, or 7-1 outside or 7-1 inside. It's the same thing that the receivers have to do. If you've ever had a chance to look at a really good college football offensive playbook or an NFL offensive playbook, the receivers are told exactly where on the field that they need to line up, whether that's on the numbers or plus 1 yard outside of the numbers or minus 2 yards inside the numbers. They are told specifically where they need to line up. That's for a reason. For an offensive passing game to be successful, there must be proper spacing between routes. There must be enough room when the route is completed for the ball to be completed. All right. And so they are aligned up in specific spots. And so if they have to be aligned in specific spots for specific plays to run specific routes, it's in your best interest to study those things. What does this split mean? What am I most likely to get as a route based on that split? Splits tell a story. If you don't study that, you won't know the story. You're going to hear the story late. If you hear the story late, you won't get the picture, and that ball is going to be in that wide receiver's hands. So you really do need to film study. And when you film study, where that receiver comes out of that huddle and lines up means something. It matters. Study that. Understand what it means, know the kind of routes you're going to be getting so you can play with a certain amount of anticipation. Again, you don't want to be having 9-10 routes in your head as that receiver is running to you. That's far too many. Based on that receiver split, then on the way that he stems you off of the line of scrimmage, and for you novices, stem means the angle that he takes towards your leverage, just the kind of a angle that he takes off of the line of scrimmage when he's running the route down the field starts to tell you a story, and you can start eliminating certain things, and you can get through the process of elimination, break it down to 1 or 2 routes that might be run so you can have some anticipation. You can stick your foot in the ground and drive the route if you need to, or open up and go cover a deep route if that's what's coming your way. But the splits tell a story, and you need to study those so you have an idea when you're lined up out there. You don't want to be totally reactive. You want some anticipation in your game. Final thing, not final. The next thing is staying square. Staying square is key. If you're going to play off man and just open up all the time, you're just going to get receivers attacking your blind spot. So coaches out there has been this movement. I don't know where it came from. I guess it comes from some of you guys hearing Nick Saban say that we don't backpedal and practice. Nonsense. If you went to any of those practices for Nick Saban at Alabama, they backpedal, corners and safeties. Now, in the kind of defenses that they ran, which was a lot of press, they would bail a lot. I understand that. You're not going to stay square and bail. But if those guys were playing off and needed to play off man, please believe that they were using a pedal. So if you're playing a true traditional off man coverage, and it's not one of these match coverages, I'm not talking about match coverage, just straight up mano-a-mano. I've got this guy, I'm covering him, and I'm 7 yards off. It is in your best interest to stay square as long as possible. Why? Because if you're square, you have an equal opportunity to break inside or outside, and that's what you want to have. You don't want to be closing yourself off to one side of the field, okay? If you open up and bail and a guy goes outside, that's a lot more footwork it's going to take for you to now redirect yourself to break on that outside route. If you've opened up early facing the sidelines and a guy breaks inside, that's a whole lot more footwork it's going to require and take for you to now get yourself and your body in position to go break on that in route, whether it's a curl, a post, or a dig. If you've opened up outside, a lot more footwork. All right. Now, if you've trained properly, you can do good with that. but I promise you, I don't care how much training that you do, you're going to get to that ball quicker if you're square when you make that break as opposed to opened up. I don't care what kind of training you do. All right. So a big part of your training is to get a very good back pedal that you feel comfortable in, that you can stay square in for as long as possible. If you're good at this, by the time that quarterback reaches the top of his drop and he plants that back foot and he's ready to throw, you're still square. One of two things happens. That quarterback looks out there at you, sees you square, and doesn't feel good about throwing the ball. Or B, he really loves his wide receiver. That's the guy he throws the ball to, and he makes a throw, and you're square, and you can break inside and outside with equal opportunity, and you're going to have your chance to make a play on the ball. And when I say make a play, I mean an interception. A lot of the big plays that you see in off-man coverage where guys jumped a route, those guys were square before they made their break. All right. I've routinely said this, Darius Slay, he's getting up there in age, but if you go look at any of the videos of him, that is probably your premier backpedal guy in the league. He's made a ton of plays out of that, took pride in that backpedal, very quick feet, could stay square very long and make a lot of great breaks. He's had a couple of great interceptions and some pick sixes coming out of a backpedal, staying square. Any of the Fuller brothers, whether that's Kendall or Kyle, great backpedal guys, able to make a lot of plays in off-man because they can stay square. So staying square is key. The next thing is you guys have got to believe what you see. One of the biggest impediments, if I could use that word, well, one of the biggest problems for guys when they are playing off-man coverage is believing that every route breaking off is a trick. And so they're hesitant. They don't just stick their foot in the ground and go break on the route. They hesitate out of their break, and they treat off man as one of these things where I'm just going to let the ball get caught in front of me, come up and make a tackle. It's not what off man really is for. It's still man coverage. So you're trying to deny the receiver the football. You're not trying to allow him to catch the football. Imagine if you went up there and played press coverage and you just said, well, I'm going to press, and as long as he doesn't catch a long, deep pass, a post, or a go route, I'm cool. If he just catches a slant, that's fine. Coach would be pissed off. It's the same thing in off-man coverage, okay? It is man coverage. We're trying to deny a reception so we can get off of the field, or we're trying to get our hands on the ball and get a takeaway. So it's not just hesitate on an out route, hesitate on a curl route because you think it's a curl and go. If you've studied film and you're seeing all the things that you saw on film, the team didn't come into town this week and change all of their plays. Oh, because you're watching film this week. We know the corner this week is watching film, so we're going to change all of our plays. Think about what that would require for the offense. They've been practicing these plays for 3, 4, 5, 10 weeks. And then this week, because there's a DB on the other side that watches film, we're going to change all of our plays and practice all these new plays this week because of that guy. That's not how that works. They run their plays, and sometimes it can be so easy that it shocks you. But if you've been watching film and you're seeing in the game what you saw on film, believe what you see. When he breaks down and he's curling, it's the curl that you saw on film happening once again in the game. And the team next week is going to see that same play happening again and again. You've seen him run that curl route from that split in that situation in 7 games leading up to you. Believe it when it happens in the game. And now you're going to use proper technique. You're going to plant your foot. You're going to drive your eyes to the receiver. And if for some reason it ended up being a trick, 1 out of the 10 times it ends up being a trick by you using proper technique, you're going to see that receiver spin out. You're going to plant, get vertical, as I said earlier in this podcast, on how to handle double moves. And you're going to go do what you need to do against that and probably have some success. But you don't let the 1 in 10 chance that that route's going to be a double move stop you from the 9 times that you can go make a play on the football. So moral of the story here is when you see in the game what you saw on film, react accordingly, believe what you see. And the final thing is, man, go find the football. And this ties into something that I talked about earlier in the podcast. If you have a problem with catching the football, if you have a problem with looking for the football, you need to cure that problem fast. You're never going to reach your potential as a defensive back if you're scared to look for the very thing that we're chasing after out there on the field, and that is the football. So when you get yourself in good position and off man, go find the football. Even if the route is a short route and you break on an out route and you go drive that receiver, when you get close enough and the ball is not there yet, throw your eyes to the quarterback, go find the football, because that's how we get interceptions. One of the beauties of playing off man is that it gives you more interception opportunities. All right. You're not always with your back turned when the ball is thrown. Now, when you're playing press, a lot of times you're not in a position to catch the football when the ball arrives because of everything that was happening at the line of scrimmage. All right. You might have been off balance because you were fighting with the wide receiver, or most of the time you end up with your back to the ball and you've got to turn your head around and make a quick determination. When you're playing off for, 5 or 6 of those routes, you're able to break coming forward. All right. Guys like Asante Samuel, who you saw in the clip earlier in this game, was really good at that. He played a lot of off man and he was able to break forward on routes, not being pressed and have his back turned, and was able to make a lot of great plays, a lot of pick sixes. He had quite a few in his career from playing off man, A, from playing square and breaking, and B, using his eyes and finding the football and getting his hands on the football. So if you have an issue catching the football, catch more footballs. But do go find that football when you make that break. Do go find that football when you are at or near that wide receiver's hips. You want to be a playmaker. If you want to be a guy with 7, 8, 9 double-digit interceptions, you are going to have to do that, okay? There's no being a big-time playmaker with high interception totals if you're a guy that doesn't feel comfortable catching the football. So if you've gotten anything out of this podcast today is, as a DB, catch more footballs. You catch more footballs, you get more comfortable, you look for the ball more, you make more plays, and you're going to have a great season. So if you sleptwalk, if you were sleepy watching this whole podcast, at least get that part. Catch more footballs in practice and watch what happens. All right, that's going to wrap things up for this edition of the Indy Drills Podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, and you're looking for more of this, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to this podcast. If you're listening to it on one of the streaming devices like Anchor or Spotify or something like that, go ahead and subscribe right now. If you're on YouTube, hit that bell, so you're notified. Before you guys leave out of here, you have got to make best use of your resources. So get yourself a copy of this book right here, 101 DB Tips. It's available as a soft cover version like this one right here, with not only all of these tips, but a glossary of 100 passing terms in here. Stuff you need to know. Stop hearing certain words in the meeting and not know what they are and getting lost. Got 100 passing terms in this soft cover version. You can get that, or you can get the ebook version delivered to you right away when you order it. So you know you need help right now. You hit that link, you order the ebook, and it's in your email within 10 minutes. All right. That's fast service. That's faster than Amazon. So you can do that. Outside of that, join the All Eyes DB Camp members area. I mean, if I would have had this as a player or even as a coach coming up, I would have been that much better. When they're talking about everything, all right? Strategy, breaking down schemes, breaking down film on guys playing one-on-one, all right? I'm telling you the good stuff and the bad stuff that they're doing. I have quizzes in there. I explain coverages in there so you understand and know where you need to be, all right? There's teach tape in there. Cover everything having to do with defensive back, over 200 posts with videos showing you what you need to do in there. If you've got a combination of the book plus the members area, you are going to have a better season this year. It's just that simple. All right. You did the physical work. You did all of the IQ work. You're going to be a better football player. Barring injury, you're just going to have a better 2025 than 2024, any season that you've had before that. So make use of your resources. Link to both of these down below. That's it for me. I'm heading out. Give this video a like. And once again, subscribe to the podcast. I'm out of here. All Eyes DB Camp. Consistency breeds results.